Alice, what the hell is that? Huh?
What do you mean? What is that?
And that thing has grown. Is that your usual
He,
lizard?
oh, you sound like the vet. Yeah, he has put on
He's
a
got a weight
few,
issue. Can I
he
suggest,
he's big boned. He's
Aleko,
not
could you
fat
please
though.
put Alice up on the screen pronto? Can we talk Ozempic for lizards?
Wow.
No, he just needs a lizard-sized treadmill. He just needs to move around a little bit more. He's fine.
No, seriously, that thing has grown exponentially, right?
He likes to eat.
Huh? No, but am I right?
A little bit, yeah. A
And
little.
and you take, how could a vet know, like, a dog, a cat, and then a lizard know what to do? Like, it's enough to say
Oh,
dog, cat, and horse, or pig, or goat.
You just said, gotta eat less bugs. Put that little lizard on a diet. They put him on a tiny little scale and they said, you're feeding him too much. And I got slightly offended. I'm just trying to be a good lizard mother over here.
I have great news for Michiganders. The Detroit Pro Football season opener right around the corner, the one and only sportsbook app that I ever recommend in Michigan. Play Gun Lake Sportsbook, an online casino app. They've got a great offer for new customers to kick off the upcoming pro football season. An amazing 50-1 odds boost on your pick to win this year's pro football championship. Play Gun Lake, they've got all terms and conditions spelled out on the website. All new users who sign up and make a deposit receive 50-1 super odds boost. Just pick your team and get odds boosted to 50-1. Restrictions do apply. And from the Play Gun Lake Sportsbook app, here are the 6 favorites. It was great to have Sal Palantonio on yesterday's program talking pro football season. Kansas City, San Fran, Baltimore, Detroit, Cincinnati, and Philadelphia. Download the Play Gun Lake Sportsbook online casino app right now. Take advantage of this deal. It's a limited time offer for new customers only. PlayGunLake.com. They've got terms and conditions. You got to be 21, and in Michigan, you play for fun. You love to win. You bet. Bet. PlayGunLake.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Headlines now from the Thursday edition of the Smerconish.com daily newsletter. Our poll question today asks this: is it a mistake for Kamala Harris to do her CNN interview alongside Tim Walz? We have a news story today on the website and in today's newsletter from the BBC. I use this just to show sort of the reach of those who are, meaning just how widespread, that's a better way to explain it, the interest level in not only the interview, but also the fact that she's going to do it with a +1. She's going to have Governor Tim Walz with her. 3 weeks ago, just days after being formally chosen as the Democratic presidential nominee, Kamala Harris was pressed on her plans for a sit-down. Then the report, I've talked to my team, I want to get it done by the end of the month. Well, tonight is the night. She will make good on that promise, just barely, but she'll be bringing along Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. As I've said, it's not unusual that a newly minted ticket would appear together. What's unusual is that you'd have the top of the ticket not having given other interviews by this point, one-on-one interviews. And I know some of you are saying, well, it's an expedited process. Yeah, I don't buy it. I think she's got an obligation to make herself available for questioning, not only by members of the media, but also members of the public. So she'll sit down today. It'll air tonight. It'll be taped. Dana Bash will do the interview. I think Dana's terrific. I think she'll do a great job. There's a lot of fodder there to question the vice president on. But any question that goes to Governor Walz is like less time on the clock for the questioning of Kamala Harris. And what will his role be in that interview? Will he involve himself? Will he try and take her off the hook? And will it make her look weak because she has him sitting there for the first interview? If it were the third interview, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. So the way that I framed the poll question, is it a mistake for Kamala Harris? Is it a mistake meaning for her campaign? Is she doing herself a disservice? Would she have been better served just going it alone? I think many will just suit up in their own partisan armor. If you're for, you'll say, oh, it's not a mistake. And if you're against her, you'll say, oh, it's a mistake. I'm asking you to play the role of political scientist or campaign operative. If you were in the room advising her when a decision was made as to who'll get the interview and what it will look like, Would you be in the camp that says, oh, and let's send Governor Walz along with you? I mean, my speculation, because I have no inside information, my speculation is that where the Harris campaign had all the leverage with the media, because the media were clamoring to be the person, the outlet to do the interview, I'm sure they were able to impose on CNN the requirement that it be a dual interview. I'm sure that Dana Bash, if she had her druthers, would only be interviewing Kamala Harris. So I just don't have a doubt that this came from the Harris campaign and that this is the way that they wanted it to play out. Yesterday's poll result, we had 32,273 votes cast. When it comes to the 2024 election, what should be Mark Zuckerberg's top priority? Should it be combating misinformation on Facebook or maintaining neutrality? It was an 80-20 result. 80% and change said combating misinformation should be the high priority. I disagree. I was in the minority on that. I think that when you have a neutral environment, others can combat misinformation. Neutrality ought to take precedence. I have a giant I told you so coming. I wish TC were here so that I could gloat, because I don't know that any of the rest of you will remember this the way that she did, even though we've got the tape. Dan will, actually.
Only because I went through the tape yesterday, but yes, okay. Now I do. Yes.
Sarah Palin, I get many things wrong. But when I get something right, I want to bloviate about it. And this is one of those instances. Governor Palin, Sarah Palin, is getting a new trial in her defamation lawsuit against the New York Times. And I had any number of conversations when the trial was going on February of 2022. Man, oh man, I can't believe so much time has already gone off the clock. Where I flat out said, I think she's got a legitimate appeal here. She's going to take it all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States. And I said that I thought that the jury instruction that was offered in the trial was at odds with New York Times versus Sullivan. I said it here without guests. I said it to Danny Savalos when he was my guest. In fact, I went back and forth with Danny yesterday, and he wasn't giving me the amount of praise that I was seeking because of my shallow nature. And I said, Danny, come on, I called it. Here's the tape. This is yours truly, February 11, 2022. Roll it, Dan. Because if I'm Sarah Palin's lawyer and we lose at trial, one of the things I'm going to say they gave a jury instruction that is at odds with New York Times versus Sullivan, because the definition doesn't provide an explanation for reckless disregard for the truth, only knowledge of falsity. Hey, look, there's going to be an appeal. No matter what happens in this case, there's going to be an appeal. I told you 2 weeks ago she's playing long ball. She expects to lose at the trial level, but she wants to get to the Supreme Court of the United States, where Neil Gorsuch and Clarence Thomas have already tipped their hands that they are receptive to taking another look at the case of New York Times versus Sullivan. She wants the law of the land to be Palin v. New York Times. It's interesting to me to see the way the Times itself covers this. Aleko, give me the camera 2 shot. Here, I'm holding up in my, there we go. I'm holding up in my hand the print edition of the New York Times just to see, what does it look like, Retrial ordered in Palin's suit against the Times. I also want to say that I'm not on Team Palin in believing that New York Times versus Sullivan needs to be overturned. Very simply, it is this. The premise is that if you're defamed and you are not a public figure, you have a negligence standard. So a failure to exercise reasonable care. If someone wrote something, said something about you as a private citizen that was false and defamatory, subjected you to ridicule and scorn, that would be the standard. In bringing your lawsuit, you would need to establish that the opposing party, the offending party, was negligent. But if you're a public figure like Sarah Palin, or frankly like me, and something defamatory is put out in the public domain about you, then New York Times versus Sullivan says you've got an additional burden. You've got to show actual malice or reckless disregard for the truth. And the mistake in this case, in my opinion, was that the judge blended the two of those concepts together. But I think that's the correct legal standard, because the premise is, if you're a public figure, you have access to the airwaves to defend yourself that a private citizen would not. And I think it makes sense. But I told you so. I knew that was going to be the outcome. Okay, more headlines now from the Thursday edition of the newsletter. I've got to sample my brain trust here. Today consisting of Dan and PJ. PJ, are you on top of your game today, or are you in a stupor?
Tip top.
Tip top. Okay. And of course, Alice with her gecko. And the question and if you don't want to answer this question, it's okay, because I'm probably going to violate HIPAA when I ask each of you. We have a story in the newsletter today about a new COVID shot. It's from NPR, and it says, it's that time of year again. New COVID-19 shots now available all over the country. That comes after the Food and Drug Administration last week green-lighted the 2 updated vaccines. I am fully vaccinated relative to COVID. The question is, would I get the new COVID shot? And my answer is probably not. And I'm curious to know, you want to go first, PJ? You go first. First of all, have you been vaccinated, if you're comfortable in telling us?
Oh, prior. 2021.
Yeah, totally. Like every time they said get a new shot, you got the card. And
so that was right on the edge of COVID.
Yes.
Not anymore.
Okay, so
the new one, negative.
Negative. Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Not at this point.
Dan, what about you? Fully vaccinated, and what about the future?
Yes. So I'm admittedly, so actually, not funny story at all. But last night was Wednesday, so I was on duty at the fire department, and we ran a call just for a lift assist, the lady who had fallen out of her chair. But we got to the door of the house, and there were the three family members were all wearing masks, and I was like, oh. Any COVID concerns in here? And they said, oh, yes, our mom just slipped out of her chair. She needs help, but she got diagnosed with COVID this morning. And I was like, oh, okay. So we turned around, got our masks, and then went back in. That reminded me that I am a couple months behind on my last booster shot, and now I'm going to do the quick research. I will absolutely either get the booster to keep going or get this new shot, because I'm all about keeping myself protected.
Well, and Dan also, for the benefit of those who don't know, is an EMT, a firefighter. You know, you're in like a first responder capacity.
Yeah.
So is that part of why you think it's incumbent upon you to do it?
Oh yeah, I look for all protections possible, because I certainly don't want to get it, and I don't want to bring it home to my family. So yeah, 100%.
All right, Alice, if you're comfortable in answering, are you fully vaccinated? Were you fully vaccinated previously relative to COVID, and will you get the new shot?
Yes and yes, but not due to politics and not due to my health. For the last few years, the thing that has made my mother happier than anything else, my mom, on Christmas morning, is to receive a wrapped gift of my framed receipt from the pharmacy that I got all my vaccines, COVID, flu, everything like that. It's actually on YouTube. I'll send you a link to her freaking out about it, but it just makes her happier.
That's
more
cool.
than anything. So that is me not caring about my health and caring about my mother.
Okay, awesome. So for the benefit of keeping mom happy, you will get it.
Absolutely.
So
PJ,
PJ, I don't know that I have a good answer as to why I'm feeling this time. Like I'm not. Maybe I've interviewed RFK Jr. too many times. I don't know, but I'm not sure why I'm not feeling it. And I have to say, it's interesting that Dan said that last night he made a call and the woman had just been diagnosed, because I have a close friend who will remain nameless, but I have a close friend that this morning when I woke up, I had an email. We were going back and forth on something, and this individual said to me, I just got a nasty case of COVID. So people are getting COVID. There are stories out there about long-term COVID side effects that are really serious. And in my case, as far as I know, I never had it. Did you ever have it?
About a month and a half ago.
You did, a month and a half ago. Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember when you did. That's
Mid-July.
right. That's right, when you stayed remote.
And we still made him work extremely hard.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
So why? Down. Okay, because Alice and Dan are like, yeah, I'm getting it. And the two of us are well, you're not even on the fence. I'm on the fence. You're saying negative. Why?
Negative about not getting the vaccine?
Yeah.
I feel like at that point, I'm not a scientist or a doctor, but once you get it, I feel like
Okay.
Don't you have it? And
Okay.
then it's
So you feel like your immunity level by virtue of having had it.
correct. Mm-hmm. That's my reason for not going.
Yeah.
Not into needles either, but it's probably worth
I
getting.
had COVID once, and that was one good enough time. Actually, I had it twice. The one time I had a really bad case of it, and I was miserable for like a week, and that was enough to tell me that I'm going to stay on top of the vaccination game.
Maybe I need to reconsider. I'll tell you this. I'll tell you one. The only thing I know for sure, this is a great poll question. This is a great poll question. Will you get the new COVID vaccine? So I'm going to file it away, and you'll be seeing this at Smerconish.com real soon. Sad news from West Virginia. A high school football player sustained an injury and passed. High school football player, 13 years old. And I read, and we have in the newsletter, the local coverage from Boone County, West Virginia. Terribly, terribly sad story. The name of the young man, Cohen Craddock. And then I saw a CNN report that said Cohen's West Virginia family agonizing, and that his death marks the third student football player to die in this month. Third this month. And I don't know, maybe it's the shark attack thing. Maybe every year in August we lose this many. But it's sad anytime you read those stories. There are two financial stories at Smerconish.com that I again want to call your attention to today. One is from The Hill, and it's a story that says there are a record number of 401k accounts, retirement accounts, that contain $1 million or more, an all-time high, the so-called 401k millionaires. That's a good thing, especially if you are one of them. But there's also a Wall Street Journal story that talks about how the American dream is out of reach for many. Americans overwhelmingly desire all the traditional trappings of the American dream: owning a home, having a family, looking forward to a comfortable retirement, but very few believe they can achieve it. A July Wall Street Journal NORC poll of 1,502 U.S. adults shows a stark gap between people's wishes and their expectations. The trend was consistent across gender and party lines, but held more true for younger generations who have been priced out of home ownership and saddled with high interest rates and student debt. So I don't know if anybody want to comment on whether you think the American dream is attainable. PJ? What do you think?
I mean, financially, is that what we're talking about? Financial freedom?
Yeah. Owning a home, being secure, having income, looking forward to retirement, all those things.
Yeah, I think having income is very important. Owning a home, not so sure about that. I think most Europeans are renting, and I think that's a smart decision, especially with interest rates at this exact moment. And other than that, yeah, income's a big one, because anybody in especially the creative world, is facing this AI automation. So that's a weird one.
You don't think that home ownership is necessary to achieve the American dream?
Not personally.
That's another good poll question. Alice, what's your take on this?
Well, I think that we see these types of trends financially starting to shift how we view these major life milestones. Like, we've had the discussion before about, because I choose to be child-free by choice, and part of that decision is financial. And I know that a lot more families are looking at those major milestones and thinking, is this something that we really want to invest in? Or is this something that is just more traditional that we've been told that we need to do? Also, big weddings. Big weddings is part of the American dream, I feel like, at least in my circle. And, more people are choosing to do eloping or micro weddings. So I feel like home ownership, even though that's something that I personally have on my vision board of 3 things above my computer right here.
Wait a second. Whoa. Time out. What are the other two?
A vision board.
A vision board?
Yes, I have a very fit looking bodybuilder woman.
Okay.
I have my home, and I have a very slender aerodynamic dog. So that's my American dream.
That's what you aspire to. A slender dog, a fit body, and a home.
Yes,
all
that's
right.
it. That's all I need.
Love your goal. Dan, what thoughts might you have on the pursuit of the American dream?
I think you can achieve anything if you work hard at it, but I think this also comes down to number one, how hard you work. Number two, where you work and where you live. And I think there are certain cities where it is way more difficult to achieve the American dream. But if you choose and you're able to move somewhere else, it might be easier to do so.
I don't think home ownership is for everybody. I think you can certainly enjoy the American dream without being saddled with a mortgage responsibility. And I think we've oversold in the past the idea that somehow you're not achieving a level of success unless you're a homeowner. What does being a homeowner really mean? It means that you own your property subject to a mortgage, because very, very few people among us own something free and clear. So it comes saddled with a lot of responsibility, I guess is what I would say. Well, gang, I appreciate all of you. Thank you. Can I give you one more quick update? I'm down to 2 jackets, front covers for the editorial cartoon book, and I'm struggling. When I say I'm down to 2, I'm down to 2 different looks and 2 different titles. And I need to bring this to a close probably by tomorrow so that we're in a position for the big reveal, which will be Wednesday, for newsletter subscribers. I'm really excited about it, and I think this is going to be a really cool venture. So more to come, and we're on schedule. That's what I wanted to say. Go vote at Smerconish.com. Watch the interview with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz tonight, because we'll be all over that tomorrow. See ya.